For every minute you are angry, you lose 60 seconds of happiness. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Welcome everyone to the show today. I have an awesome guest joining me today from Conyers, Georgia. He's a great friend of mine. He selected the quote for today, and I want to welcome and introduce Steve Carter. Hey, Steve, how are you?
Hey, Monica, I'm doing great. It's Monday, but I'm great.
I know, Monday. So I'm reading.
We couldn't get a Tuesday
meeting.
Listen,
so Steve, thank you for joining me on this episode, and I'm super pumped for the people that are listening to get to hear what you have to say. Tell us a little bit about who is Steve Carter?
Well, Steve Carter is a husband to my wife, Kim, coming up on 30 years this fall.
Congrats.
Have 3 sons, Sam, Ben, and Aaron. And I'm a father to 3 sons, and I'm a servant to 2 dogs. We have a Doberman Pinscher and a Boston Terrier, and I will tell you, the Boston rules the house.
There you go.
Professionally, I'm president and owner of Carter Young, which is a collection agency, as you know. I'm also a Georgia licensed private detective, and wow. I hold a U.S. Coast Guard Master Captain's license.
So you are a jack of all trades, sir. I didn't even know some of that.
Well,
and I've known you for a long time.
In this fickle economy, any prudent business person better have a backup plan as a side hustle.
Absolutely. I have my side hustle, so I totally relate.
Yep.
Well, Steve, tell me a little bit. You know, I've worked with Carter Young for years and years and years now as my go-to collection agency. And so tell us a little bit about how you found yourself in the collections business.
Well, Monica, I cannot tell a lie. On career day, I played hooky. I had this great fear that the counselor was going to tell me, Carter, we've got nothing here for you. Your buddy Joe got the last job, and that was dog catcher. That was my kicker. Actually, that's not true, but probably not too far off. Actually, I'm second generation. And so I tell people this is my 33rd year in the business, 35th year in the business, excuse me. But actually, it's my 53rd year in the business because, as I said, I'm second generation. And, you know, just to give you some perspective, how it was when I was a kid walking into my dad's business, the contrast between now and then, there are 2 distinct smells that I remember walking in his office as a kid. One was the smell of smoke and that of ink. Because in those days, automation was literally, non-existent. So all the documentation had to be on ledger cards. And everybody had ashtrays on their desk, almost everybody. Yeah. And so there was yellow nicotine stains on the walls. Could you imagine working in that environment today?
It reminds me much of leasing apartments in the 80s. It wasn't uncommon in our industry for people to have, an ashtray in the manager's office and they would be smoking indoors, which is a significant difference to today.
Shag carpet.
That about you. I love thinking about, I've not pondered what my children will take on from my business. They grew up in student housing, so they're like, no, I don't want any part of that. So it's awesome that you were able to follow in your father's footsteps and pick that up. So look, one of the things I wanted to talk about today, and one of the things I reached out to you to come on the podcast is I've been thinking a lot about my own experience during the pandemic and how, it affected me personally. And so I really thought long and hard about, others and what was Steve's theory and thoughts on, coming out of the pandemic. And if you're seeing a bigger increase in things turned over to collection because people were laid off and they were really truly hit. So really what I wanted to ask you are, what are some of your best practices that your collection team utilized when communicating with consumers during and post pandemic?
Sure. Well, I'm not sure what a normal economy is anymore, but normally a consumer is not placed for collection because they got money falling out of their pockets. I mean,
right.
there's some degree of financial distress somewhere. And so as a result, we employ what we call solution-based language. Not so much focusing on the origin of the problem, but just forward thinking, using positive language. And so when the economy hit, when the pandemic hit, we said, holy mackerel, what do we do now? Because like you, we've experienced downturns, upturns, side turns, but we've never experienced a pandemic before.
Right.
And So what we simply did was we just broadened that solution-based approach to the consumers when we made our calls. And so right out the gate, we would say, good morning, Ms. Smith. A lot of good people have been affected by this pandemic and have had to make very difficult decisions. We wanted to reach out to you this morning to see, would it help your budget if we did the following? Our clients, our creditor clients, knew the consumers were struggling as well. And so they allowed, us to do balance reductions for consumers. And with the timing of the stimulus money from the government, it couldn't have been better. So
That's
as a
awesome.
result, we were able to help a lot of consumers resolve their debts, and certainly for our clients as well. So
I love that.
yeah,
That's
so the
awesome.
pandemic certainly came with its blessings, but it also came with its challenges.
Absolutely.
A lot of consumers appreciated our straightforward approach. We had some people say, this is not the outcome I expected. And I will jokingly tell them, when they say that the agent was really nice to them, I said, look, we've got an image to keep up. I'm going to have to write her up for being nice. And some of them will even say, your agent was actually nicer than the original creditor. And so using positive language, sometimes people just need a word of encouragement. They just need somebody to listen to them.
100%. Coming
Yeah.
out of the pandemic, I think feeling beaten up and, really not knowing, some people didn't know when their next paycheck was going to come from or when, and just trying to navigate the waters financially during the pandemic, whether it was in
Sure.
regards to being laid off and collecting unemployment or waiting on a stimulus or, PPP, for instance. I mean, there was a lot of hoops and obstacles. So I love that you guys had a positive approach and a forward facing approach. I think that fared well for you, I'm sure.
You bet.
For those that really couldn't help the situation they were in and wanted to have an outcome, that was a successful one, given the cards they were dealt. Sorry. So what advice would you give a consumer that's struggling financially as a result of the pandemic?
Sure. Well, I'm going to let you know a little secret. Debt collectors really don't want to call you. They really don't. They would rather be on the receiving end of a call. And, as I expressed to you earlier, collections isn't what it was when my father was running the business. It's a whole different ballgame now. Mm-hmm. And compliance is really a big factor out there now. A lot of the bad players have been mostly eliminated, probably out of this industry, I would suspect. And my advice is to communicate with your creditors. If you receive a phone call, take the call. If you get a letter from a collection agency, respond to it. Convey to them what your position is, what's realistically within your budget. With today's technology, you really don't even have to talk to a human at the collection agency. You can go online, you can chat, you can email, you can even text. So a lot of ways to communicate what your position is. We've had a lot of exchanges with people during the pandemic who just couldn't do anything. And we said, we wish you the best. We'll check back with you on a future date. And a lot of people followed up because it was a productive exchange, and they remembered the call, and they were back on their feet and were able to work something out. So
that's really great.
Yeah.
That's really great advice, because a lot of people who, might find themselves in that situation want to run and hide, and they just want to shield themselves from it. So, encouraging that open communication, even when it's a stressful topic, is going to fare super, better than somebody that wants to run and hide under a rock and pretend it's not happening.
Sure.
I can imagine. So I love that you guys took a different approach. And I think, you're right. My dad is president of a bank, but he was in the collections business when I was a little girl. And, he's ruthless. So I remember those days quite well. So now here's the kicker question for you. I can't wait to hear the answer on this one, because you know how girl power I am. So do women make good collectors?
Women make excellent collectors. Our top performers are women. Sorry, guys, it's women.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, today's consumer are very savvy. They're very smart. And the day of the silver-tongued devil, the smooth talkers, that's a turnoff to consumers nowadays. They don't want to hear lip service. What makes somebody, there's a range of skills that make a collector successful. Mm-hmm. But but what a lot of what makes someone successful is you've got to be a good listener, emotional awareness.
Yeah.
Someone who can move beyond the problem and form a solution. Some of our collectors, some of our top collectors are single moms. And I think that they relate well to some consumers who are struggling. So women are amazing. And
I love that.
So, by the way, we're east of Atlanta, just 25 miles. We don't work nights or weekends. And so if you are interested in a new career change, call me. I'm available. We're hiring.
Yes.
Carter Young is hiring.
I love that. I know some single moms that could really benefit from that.
Yeah, sure.
Might be good candidates for you. So that's awesome. I love that.
You bet.
So look, thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate, you coming on and you were cheap and easy or fast. What was it?
All the above.
But I'm so thankful for your time. And actually, you've piqued my interest. I'm interested in learning more about your private detective side since I didn't know you had that. So maybe we'll have another episode in the future and kind of highlight some of that. What do you think?
You bet. You bet. I tell clients who are getting married, I said, look, we need to do a little asset investigation on this guy, do a little background check before you tie the knot. So happy to help.
You guys, if you are looking for a collection agency, I have worked with Carter Young for more years than I have fingers. And I have loved really, the things that Steve brings. He brings a lot to the table in regards to training and showcasing and teaching your teams how to collect. I primarily focus in the apartment industry, and he does a great job of arming those assistant managers with the skill sets they need to successfully collect. And then they're there for you when it needs to go to the agency as well. So highly one of my preferred vendors and clients that I love working with, and I love utilizing your service. So thanks again, Steve, for taking time out of your day to come on here and speak with me. And I'll look forward to having you on a future episode and we can dig into this private detective business.
You got a date. The pleasure's been all mine. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Have a great day, Steve, and I'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care.
Take care. Hey guys, thanks for joining me this week. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to mark them down in the comment section of the episode. If you have questions for Steve, feel free to shout them out there. I know how to get a hold of him and can ask him for any follow-up thoughts or questions, or if there's any topics you would like to be a part of or have us discuss in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out. Have a great week, guys. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Hey guys, if you like this episode, please hit like and subscribe.